With the NHL postseason agonizingly close, the Wednesday edition of your daily 30-minute source for everything hockey, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, is zeroing in on the top headlines from around the league that you need to know. Kucherov, Winnipeg Jets set a franchise record, and what's going on with these Florida Panthers. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday, my fantasy degenerates, and welcome back inside the lab to your daily 30-minute source for everything that you need from around the world of hockey. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. With Steele and Flip, shout out to the everydayers holding us down and making us your first listen every single day. We hope you continue to do so, as Steele and I will be here Monday through Friday all the way until that Stanley Cup gets lifted, and we're going to be touching on that cup a little bit on today's episode, Steele, because there is a lot of interesting angles going on in the NHL, and you and I are going to continue to cover all the fantasy needs that everyone out there needs, but we're also going to have to cover some of this NHL news, because no matter what's going on with your team, this will have an impact on what you're going to do in the offseason or the end of this season. So Kucherov, another milestone, another feather in this cap steal that I think we need to talk about. I'm excited to get your take on it, because where is this man getting drafted next season? We'll break it down. The Jets, real or fugazi? We'll talk about that as well, because I'm excited to see what you have to say about a Jets team that just set a franchise record with 53 wins in this Florida Panthers situation, Steele. I'll leave that at that, because big time bets will be what it is. Over to you. I'm ready to get into it, because these are a bunch of hot topics we got to break down.
Yeah, a lot of news, especially the Kucherov. Again, a lot of breaking records this last week, and we're going to get to all of that real quickly, though. We want to somewhat wrap up the Fantasy Hockey League season that we had for both our casual and competitive leagues. You know, obviously, we want to get out there and thank everybody who messaged us on Instagram, Twitter, on YouTube, wanting to participate this year. It's been a fantastic season with all 28 participants across the two leagues. So thank you for all of that. Stay tuned in throughout the entire summer for any information for next year's fantasy league. Again, real quickly, a shout out to some specific teams out there, to Jaden and Matt, who made it to the championship round in the casual league. Also to Trevor, who's facing your boy in the bronze medal game this week. We were both the favorites in the semifinals, and the underdogs took us out. So shout out to Jaden and Matt for winning the semifinals and going into the championship round. In the competitive, we have to give a round of applause to our fellow fantasy hockey legend and podcaster, Blake Creamer, and our Finnish friend, Samuli, who are going head-to-head in the finals for the competitive.
I love that we're international, Steele.
I love that we're international, too. So congratulations to Blake and Samuli for making it to the finals. Best of luck to you guys, as well as Brock and Nick, who are fighting for the bronze in the competitive league. Again, top 3 teams get an exemption for next year's league, plus a percentage, obviously, of the total prize money for both the casual and competitive league. So wanted to give a shout out to everybody who joined, everybody who listens, obviously. Thank you so much for a fantastic season out there.
Yes.
And to give myself a little bit of kudos, I have to share with you guys, I won my keeper league with my boys back from Stouffville. First year doing the keeper league, 1-7-5-2. So I just wanted to highlight a few players out there who really took my team over the top. Obviously, Tage Thompson, another 40-plus goal season. Jake Gensel has been dynamite for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Mackenzie Weegar, another standout season peripherally, having a career year as well. And then Tom Wilson, who I drafted in the 17th round of this draft. Huge value, huge steal.
Yes.
So I wanted to highlight that as well. I'm expecting a championship ring anytime now. Should be getting that e-transfer for the prize money. But again, congratulations and best of luck to everybody out there who's in the championship round this week.
Thank you sincerely for reining me back in here, Steele. You know those pre-episode whiskeys have hit extra hard today. Straight up and down, though, it's just appreciation and gratitude that people out there are interested in going toe-to-toe with us. I also have to give you a shout-out for holding down the brand and providing any sort of semblance of relevancy and showing what we know what we're
you.
talking about, because your boy's been struggling in these leagues, and I know he squeaked into the playoffs, but shout out to you for really holding it down and have another good season. Good luck to everyone out there down the stretch, and this show is for you guys. Steele and I love coming on and talking puck, but we want to get you guys this paper. It's not just lip service.
Yes,
I genuinely mean it. So hit us in the comments like you continue to do. We've really appreciated seeing everyone who's in the finals, semifinals, on the edge of winning leagues or at least getting some money. It's huge. Steele, what is also huge is, let me hit you with this Nikita Kucherov statistic. Nikita Kucherov becomes the 4th player with 80 assists in 3 straight seasons. You want to know those other 3 players? You may have heard of them. Bobby Orr, Paul Coffey, and Wayne Gretzky. This is really intriguing to me because I thought about this long and hard today. I think somehow Nikita Kucherov, maybe it's because the Tampa Bay Lightning, everyone's tired of them winning. Maybe it's because he's mouthed off to the Canadian media and, in that Montreal series. Maybe it's because he showed up like a bit of a bum at that All-Star game a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of angles here where people maybe want to detract from his greatness. We shouldn't. We really need to give this man his flowers. He almost looks like he's out there effortlessly, Steele. And I wanted to turn it back over to you for your take on Cooch, but I mentioned this to you off air. Where does this man slide into the top 5 of fantasy studs next season? I think it's clear we know how we feel about McKinnon. But after that, do you take Nikita Kucherov ahead of a player like Connor McDavid? I don't want to get crazy here, but with 115 points and 81 assists, and we're not even done yet, and this guy is also an elite goal scorer, point per game player in the playoffs, I want to turn it over to you for your take on Kucherov, because not nearly enough attention and credit is being paid to this man.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And obviously a first-round draft pick. Again, there's been a lot of records that have been broken this past week. Obviously, Ovechkin, we're going to talk about the Jets, Kucherov doing this and, putting his name amongst the elite in the National Hockey League history. I think if you look at Connor McDavid, if he doesn't go down to injury as well, he's also on this list this season too, because currently at 64 assists in 63 games, 90 points total. I think Connor McDavid would have been on this list as well. I think it's
great
easy
point
that Nathan McKinnon's going to be on this list next year, because he has currently put up back-to-back 80-plus points this season. He can get his 3rd next year as well. So for me, number 1, it's Nathan McKinnon. He's the number 1 overall draft pick for me moving forward. And again, it's really 1A, 1B, 1C at this point. You can't go wrong with all 3 guys. Kucherov's a top 3 pick for me. And again, you can't go wrong if you take Kucherov
I agree.
first. There's really no argument at this point that it should have been McDavid, it should have been McKinnon. At that point, it's all personal preference on who you really like. I
agree.
And Nikita Kucherov, besides the one season, I believe it was in 2020 and 2021, where he missed the entire year to injury, and then also a half a season following that, he's been healthy pretty much throughout his entire career, especially the last 3 seasons. He's only missed, a handful of games, maybe 6, 7 at the high end. He's put up three seasons in a row of 80-plus assists, 3 seasons in a row of 110-plus points. He's an absolute stud fantasy-wise. There's no question he's a top 3 pick. If he falls out of the top 3 in fantasy hockey league drafts, to me, that's an absolute steal, because he's just that good.
That consistent as well. Reliable. You know what you're getting with Cooch.
The skill set's incredidible.
He's effortless. I don't know what year it was when everyone talked about that move he made. I believe it was in the in the All-Star game, where he missed the puck and it went in 5-hole, and everyone started to do it.
That's global. It's global now.
Yeah, there's not a lot of replication in the game of hockey like that. And when you have a copycat player good enough, like this player, Nikita Kucherov, my goodness me, 144 points last year as well, Steele. It's like, let's be real and let's throw some respect on his name. Or Coffey, Gretzky, enough said. We'll talk about a little bit more, though, after the break. We got to talk about these Winnipeg Jets, and I am very intrigued to talk about the Florida Panthers, Steele. We don't know what happens tonight between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Florida Panthers, but what I do know, it's about to get very, very spicy up in here in the Atlantic Division and in the playoffs. We'll have you covered on both the rest of the way. Make sure you're tapped into the pod. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at, you know what it is. It is Wonderful Pistachios. You know why I love Wonderful Pistachios, Steel. You need a snack that's delicious and nutritious. Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber, better for you unsaturated fats to help you full, longer, all day long. At the desk, on the road, Wonderful Pistachios is my go-to. The no-shell variety is the perfect grab-and-go snack. Make sure you're checking out Wonderful Pistachios today. Get snacking, get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. Couldn't be doing this without all of our listeners out there. So thank you so much for all of that. Let's quickly wrap up on the incredible season of Nikita Kucherov. We'll get over to the Winnipeg Jets and the Florida Panthers and the injuries that are piling on right now. I know they're getting a few guys back, but what a season for Nikita Kucherov. Again, fantasy, he's just an absolute stud out there in the offensive zone, juggernaut, power play juggernaut. And like you said, it's just, to me, it's just effortless. The way he plays and is able to create so many opportunities with every, obviously rotations and schemes in the offensive zone, just making those one-touch passes, the off looks, Nick Paul in front of the net to Jake Gensel across the seam. I think that word perfectly describes him. It's effortless when you watch Nikita Kucherov on the ice. It's like he's floating out there the way he skates. So
magic.
Incredible player, magic man himself. Kucherov's been a great fantasy player, obviously.
Let's get after it with the chat on this Winnipeg Jets team, Steel, because at the end of the day, the book is out on this team. They have tons of regular season success, and this is one of those situations that you and I haven't spoken. I don't know what your take is on the Winnipeg Jets for the postseason. Connor Hellebuyck, number 1 fantasy goaltender. This is where you and I are going to have to really start to separate fantasy and on ice, the quality of 100%. These players, because 110 points for the Winnipeg Jets needs to be recognized. 53 wins in the regular season is very impressive. 265 goals scored this season and 182 goals against. Their goal differential, I believe, leads the league at 83, plus 83. It does in a very big way. These are all angles that I think a lot of people would go, you have to consider them a real threat for the cup. And you can tell me I'm crazy. I don't. And I understand Josh Morrissey has been great. Neil Pionk has been great. Mark Scheifele has been great. What you have here is a whole bunch of best case scenarios, fantasy or otherwise. And can that translate into the postseason? Yes, it can. But what has happened to this team? Connor Hellebuyck has seen too much rubber. That's not his fault. Can Eric Comrie come in here and win you a series if needed? I say no. And I know I'm going to take some heat for this one, Steel. And yes, for sure, they deserve a lot of credit and respect. To me, at 53 wins, this is kind of clouding the fact that this team hasn't been able to get it done. And I'm not going to compare them directly to the Toronto Maple Leafs, who we'll talk about in a second. But there's some comparisons there in terms of really good regular seasons, high expectations, and not being able to get it done. So to me, 53 wins is nice. Show me what you can do in the first round, because the Stars, Avs, Kings, and Knights are, in my opinion, just as good, if not better. And I'll take my chances with those teams on bets before I'm risking any money with the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, and I'm even going to be more specific with the first round. An incredible fashion to break the record with their 53rd win in the season, to end the Blues streak at 12 games, which was also a franchise record for them. That's incredible in itself. So really good season for the Winnipeg Jets. But I'm looking at the playoffs specifically, like you were just talking about. In the last 10 years, the Jets have missed the playoffs 3 times and have only made it past the first round twice out of 7 playoff attempts in the
what does
last
that
10
sound
years.
similar
So,
to, Steele?
exactly.
Weird.
So as
Yeah.
you were saying, not trying to compare it to the Maple Leafs, it's somewhat pretty comparable to the Toronto Maple Leafs as a Canadian franchise in this market right now. So they have had trouble with many teams getting over that hump of the first round. And when you look at the last 2 years in the postseason, they played 10 games. They only won twice. And Connor Hellebuyck has a lot to do with that. And he does deserve some of the blame, which has transpired in the postseason the last 2 seasons. Like I said, they've only won 2 games out of 10 the last 2 years. Save percentage wise, he had an .864 save percentage last year and an .886 save percentage the year before that, with a 3.44 goals against average and a 5.23 goals against average in 2023. So defensively, they completely collapsed. Connor Hellebuyck was not on his game, obviously, as well. And again, that's been the storyline for this Winnipeg Jets team. Now, I do believe the narrative has changed a little bit with what I've seen from Hellebuyck, with what I've seen from Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele. But again, this is a team that, as much as I do like the depth pieces they added at the trade deadline, they didn't make a huge splash, like you said, with the Dallas Stars and Mikko Rantanen, like the Colorado Avalanche as well.
Exactly.
And on top of that, I'm also not willing to write off the Minnesota Wild or the St. Louis Blues against this Jets team. You're getting one of the hottest teams right now in the Blues, obviously, if they do finish in that second wild card spot. And then when the Minnesota Wild get Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek back in the lineup, that makes it a completely different matchup, in my opinion. And that's going to be a difficult thing for this Jets team to do in the first round, which they've struggled to get out of over the last 10 years. So as much as I do believe the narrative has changed a little bit, I can't completely write off the teams in those 2 wildcard spots.
I like that we're on the same page here is what I'm really picking up. Also, let me throw a couple of stats at you quickly. Most wins by U.S.-born goaltender. Connor Hellebuyck last night tied Craig Anderson. Now he's behind only Tom Barrasso, John Van Briesbroek, Ryan Miller, and Johnny Quick. So that's very impressive. But let me throw a couple of other numbers at you, Mr. Rodin. How about this? Since 2017, 2018, Connor Hellebuyck has led the NHL in games played every single season except one. Connor Hellebuyck also during that time 4 times is the goaltender that's faced the most shots as well. And that right there, you know me and the numbers, I can tell you this, that is going to be an angle that you have to consider. It's one that I'd also consider with what's going on right now with the Florida Panthers and games played and mileage on these bodies. Wow, that was a good segue. I'm feeling the whiskey now, Steele. Let's talk about it if you're okay, though. The Florida Panthers quickly. We can get to it after the break. Big time bets coming up. Also, don't miss. Steele and I will be breaking down every single playoff matchup, 1 through 8, East and West, X factors, bets, previews, and everything that you guys need to know if you're in a playoff pool. This is very interesting for the Florida Panthers, Steele. They've got key injuries. They got bodies coming back, but they're dropping games. I'm not here for this tanking situation. I don't think that's ever going to be a thing in Paul Maurice's vocabulary. However, we don't know the result of the game tonight between the Leafs and Panthers, and I think that's going to be very indicative of what we're going to see in the first round for both teams. I just know this. Don't ever count out a Panthers team that is so hard to play against, hard to forecheck against. They are tough at both ends of the ice. I would say it would be a mistake for Leafs fans or otherwise to think that this team is ripe for the taking, because that would be a mistake.
Yeah, there's this rumor going around saying the Florida Panthers are trying to tank and set up a matchup with the Maple Leafs in the first round, but there's no validity to this, because when you look at the standings in the Atlantic Division, when you look at first place with the Toronto Maple Leafs to 4th in the Ottawa Senators, there's only 2 points that separate each team from those placements. So the standings are easily able to fluctuate. They're very easy to change with the last 4 to 5 games in the regular season. I mean, the Tampa Bay Lightning could end up winning the division in the Atlantic. The Panthers could still win the division. The Leafs could finish. So there's no validity with that whatsoever. Let's talk about after the break what the best matchup would be for those 4 teams, specifically the Florida Panthers going into the first round. And again, talk about some of those injuries that have impacted them during this 5-game losing streak. We'll talk about that after the break alongside big time bets.
Do you have trouble sleeping? If so, you're not alone. That used to be me, lacking rest, tossing and turning. I was late for meetings. I never felt like myself. That's until I found Bare Mattress. Bare Mattress and their sleep recovery technology helped me fall asleep faster as well as enjoy deeper sleeps. I felt like myself again, and you can too. Bare Mattress knows that every sleeper is different. That's why they have their sleep quiz on their website that finds you your perfect match. As a side sleeper, I matched with the Elite Hybrid mattress, and I've been telling everyone in my life they have to try Bare Mattress risk-free. You can sleep on your Bare Mattress up to 120 nights, and if you're not getting the best sleep of your life, you can get it refunded. They'll pick it up with absolutely no hassle. So go to baremattress.com and use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's baremattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 40% off site-wide. Baremattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, and use that code Locked On NHL for 40% off Bare Mattress. Thank you so much for tuning back in. Continuing the conversation, we're going to get to big time bets very, very shortly. But the Florida Panthers, again, no validity whatsoever to them tanking and trying to set up a matchup with the Maple Leafs. But if you are the Panthers, and let's look at all 4 teams quickly before big time bets. But if you are the Panthers, what would be the matchup you want going into the first round? A Maple Leafs team that you know has struggled to make it past the first round, a Lightning team that is very hot right now, or the Ottawa Senators, who haven't been in the playoffs since 2017?
I think it's got to be clear that it's the Ottawa Senators. And I don't want to really reinvent the wheel here and just throw shade at a fan base that I want to. The Ottawa Senators don't have that winning caliber, and I'm not trying to make the example that the Leafs do. The Tampa Bay Lightning for sure have it. The Leafs at least have that experience. And look, let me break it down very honestly. At some point, this Leafs team is going to break through. They are going to do it, Steele. Are they going to win a Stanley Cup? No. But this might be the year that you might see them make some noise. Why not? It's the best version of the Leafs that you've seen at both ends of the ice in 15 seasons. That's just a fact. So that means to me the Florida Panthers want the Ottawa Senators. There's no way you want John Cooper and all of those studs on the Tampa Bay Lightning's roster. It's got to be the Ottawa Senators. And that's saying something because Linus Ullmark is red hot. The Ottawa Senators have looked pretty good. Brady Tkachuk is banged up. The blue line is suspect, in my opinion, and I can take as much heat as I'd like to on that take because after Jake Sanderson and Thomas Chabot, I'm not buying into any of it, and bring it on after that, Bare Mattress or otherwise. For me, it's clear-cut. It's the Ottawa Senators. Don't sleep on the Florida Panthers, though. However, they have not looked great. Let's see what they do Tuesday night. And I know, again, I've said it a few times, to me, that's a very big measuring stick game, especially with the news that Barkov's back in. Bennett is going to be out. Paul Maurice has got to juggle some here. Let's see what they're made of.
Yeah, currently on the 5-game losing streak. They actually had 7 regulars out of the lineup in that game against the Montreal Canadiens over the weekend. So the injuries have been piling up, but good news to get those 3 players back into the lineup against a division rival, against a potential playoff matchup, playoff opponent in the first round. And for me, the angle that I'm taking with is exactly what you said. It's not so much about tanking to set up a match with the Maple Leafs or the Ottawa Senators. It's about staying away from the Tampa Bay Lightning, who is a top 5 team in the league with a record at home. When you look at them over the last 10 seasons, they've had a playoff berth in 9 of them. They've had 3 Stanley Cup appearances, 3 Stanley Cup final appearances in that time, and 2 Stanley Cup champions in back-to-back seasons. So it's more so staying away from them. And again, I agree, letting the Lightning have home ice advantage. and against obviously the Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators. Those are more fortuitous matchups, but regardless, no tanking whatsoever. They're the Stanley Cup reigning champions for a reason. They don't care who they have to go through. No matter what, it's going to be a tough road. It's the toughest championship to win in all of sports, the Stanley Cup. That is coming up in a few weeks. We couldn't be more excited for that. We couldn't be more excited as well for big time bets. 5 games on the schedule for Wednesday, my friend. And if you don't mind, I'm going to start us off, and I'll rattle off all 3 of my
Rattle
picks.
off all 3. Let's get after it.
Number 1, Lightning on the money line against the Maple Leafs at -176.
I like
Look,
it.
this is a back-to-back situation for the Maple Leafs. They played Florida yesterday. The Lightning, again, one of the hottest teams in the league right now. I know the Maple Leafs have won all 3 games so far this season. I just don't like the back-to-back situation for them, especially on the road in Florida. So I'm taking the Lightning on the money line. Second pick, it's panned out for me all week long. Flames on the money line against the Ducks at -54. Like I said, I'm taking this angle of they're not giving up. They're definitely not giving up. And a big win against the Sharks the other night in comeback fashion. Second pick of the night. Third pick, Wild on the money line. Not a lot of juice here, -295, but I'm comfortable enough taking them at the money line and not the puck line here. Those are my 3 picks. Lock of the night, though, Flames on the money line.
Absolutely love the Flames on the money line. That's a pick myself, Steele. 6-2-2. The Calgary Flames in their last 10. They're playing great hockey. When you have a goaltender as good as Dustin Wolf and some really good blue liners, Uyghur, Rasmus Anderson, that right there, those 3 players make you a team that is very hard to play against. This team's weakness clearly is their balance up front and their lack of scoring punch. So you have Nas, you have Resurgent Huberto, then you got Matt Coronado and Blake Coleman. Come on, they're at the bottom of the league in goals scored for a reason. This team even has 1 or 2 more depth scorers. They're not on the door for the playoffs. They are in a top 3 spot in that Pacific Division. So let me throw this out. I will also take the under in the Toronto Maple Leafs Tampa Bay Lightning game. I'm going to take it at 6.5, though, Steele. I don't like it at 5.5. 5 of the last 8 meetings between these two has gone over the number. But this is a different situation, and this is huge for both teams. I believe it's going to be Joseph Woll in the cage for the Maple Leafs against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Hit me with the under 6.5. This could either blow up in my face or I'm seeing 3-2, 3-1. Tight checking, playoff-like atmosphere, all of the things I like to say at this time of year when I'm selling y'all on an under. My favorite pick of the night. How good has Nazem Kadri been for this Flames team? Throw some respect on Nas. 31 goals,
this year.
30 assists, 60 points, 72 penalty minutes. He's eating a lot of ice time, 2 minutes north of his career average, well over 19 when he's averaged 17 in his career. I really want to throw some love at Nas, who has been sensational over his last 15 games. In his last 3, a goal and 2 assists. Lock of the night. Throw it into your favorite parlay. Thank me later. Not a ton of value. It's going to probably be like -190, -200. Nazem Kadri, anytime point. Lock that one in.
Absolutely loving the picks for Wednesday night. I'm all over the anytime point for Nazem Kadri along with that Flames money line. Loving those picks. Those are the lock of the nights and the 3 picks for Wednesday. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen today and every single day. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. From both Flip and I, we wish you good luck with those bets Wednesday, and we wish you good luck with those weekly matchups if you're in the finals or fighting for a top 3 spot. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.